All right, guys, this is the second half of the Unit 4 Reading CUA review. So I'm going to read the second passage and go over the second set of questions. So the passage is more opportunities for female college athletes. College athletes enjoy many advantages beyond the thrill of the game. They graduate at a higher rate than the general college population. They also benefit from scholarship programs that can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. In addition, student athletes have access to their own academic support services that include tutors and advisors. Of course, they also enjoy the camaraderie and high-level competition that accompany life as a college athlete. All of this sounds terrific, but there is one significant problem. The majority of students who receive scholarships are men. Universities, along with the National Collegiate Athletic Association, must work to create more opportunities for female athletes. In NCAA schools, those with sports programs run by the National College Athletic Association, more than half of the students are women. Yet, women receive only 44% of the opportunities for athletic 44% of the opportunities for athletic participation. Female athletes at schools competing at the highest level of athletic competition receive 42% of scholarship dollars and 28% of the total athletic budget. These programs spend only 31% of their recruiting budgets on female athletes. Some may argue that men's sports, such as football and men's basketball, deserve their larger share of the budget because they draw the largest audiences. However, there is no reason to believe that women's sports are incapable of bringing in fans. In fact, women's volleyball has become very popular. It attracts big crowds and generates excitement. The NCAA offers scholarships to these athletes, and the sport continues to grow. If women's volleyball can take off like that, why not other women's sports as well? The NCAA is working to address the discrepancy between opportunities for male and female athletes. It is doing this through the Emerging Sports for Women program. This initiative helps women's sports become full-fledged college leagues called NCAA championship sports. In order to participate, a sport must gain a certain number of varsity teams in a set amount of time. One of the emerging sports for women is equestrian, or horseback riding. Equestrian entered the program in 1998, but its road to NCAA legitimacy has been rocky. It was nearly dropped due to its limited growth, but it eventually achieved significant growth. Today, its prognosis looks positive. Women's wrestling has also had a difficult time taking off. Few people attend matches because it is not as popular as other women's sports, such as volleyball. As a result, opportunities for female wrestlers are quite limited. Nonetheless, many colleges do have women's wrestling teams. The National Collegiate Wrestling Association even holds a national championship for them. However, women's wrestling is still struggling to achieve emerging sport status in the NCAA. Even if it achieves that status, there is a long and difficult road ahead before becoming a championship sport. Men's wrestling, by contrast, is already a championship sport. That means male wrestlers have opportunities for scholarships and athletic recruitment that their female counterparts do not. There are, to be sure, reasonable arguments against increasing the number of NCAA championship sports for women. College programs have to work within a budget, and they have to weigh carefully which new sports, if any, they can afford to support. A sport that lacks an audience offers little appeal for a school, even if it benefits the individual athletes who participate. University athletic departments must also weigh a sports opportunity for expansion. One that has the potential to gain the number of teams needed to move from emerging to champion status is a far better investment than one that seems unlikely to gain popularity with either athletes or audiences. Clearly, not every sport needs to achieve championship status. However, ones with strong potential, such as women's wrestling, should be expanded to provide opportunities for women in college athletics. Whether in the gymnasium, on the field, or in the classroom, female athletes have a great deal to offer. When more women's sports achieve legitimacy in the NCAA, then universities, athletes, and audiences will reap the benefits. Number 6, what is the author's central claim in the text? So like we said throughout the course of this unit, the claim is usually in the first paragraph or the last paragraph. So what I would say here is that our claim is likely in this first paragraph. So remember, our claim is the argument that our author is trying to make. So if you worked on some annotations as you were reading, I would say that the claim is near the bottom here, that their universities must work to create more opportunities for female athletes. That, to me, is the claim sentence. So then we're going to find the answer choice here that most closely connects to that last sentence of paragraph 1. So A says, in recent years, the athletic opportunities for college women have greatly improved. Now, that's actually the opposite of what our text is saying, so A is incorrect. B, the recognition of more women's sports will lead to more scholarship opportunities. Now, yes, that is correct, right? That's what our author is trying to say, that if we recognize more sports, there will be more scholarship opportunities. But what we're looking for is a call for them to work to create more opportunities. So let's see if we find a better one than B. C, the NCAA must focus on sports that are likely to appeal to both athletes and audiences. Again, we're looking for something that connects to more opportunities for women, so C is wrong. D, the NCAA should recognize more women's sports to provide more opportunities for women. There's that word opportunities. So then our correct answer here is D. 7. Which statement is a counterclaim that an author includes in the text? So remember, our claim is what our author is trying to prove, that the NCAA should recognize more women's sports. So our counterclaim then is the opposite, the opposing claim. Okay, so when I was reading the passage, I saw in paragraph 6 here, there are to be sure reasonable arguments against increasing the number of championship sports for women. So right here, this paragraph already is setting up to give you a counterclaim. So college programs have to work within a budget, and they have to weigh carefully which sports, if they can afford, if any, they can afford to support. So something about money. A sport that lacks an audience offers little appeal for the school, even if it benefits the individual athletes who participate. They have to weigh the opportunity for expansion, right? So our counterclaim is in this paragraph. So let's see if we can find a statement that most directly connects with that paragraph. A, volleyball is a popular and successful women's sport. Okay, so is that telling us that they can't afford, or they have to weigh their support, or no, right? Wrestling is a sport that has a great potential for female athletes. Okay, so again, both of these kind of help support the claim that we need to provide more opportunities for women. C, an unpopular sport is a poor investment for a college athletic department. Okay, so that's what this is saying, right? So they have to work in a budget. They have to weigh if they can afford to support it, right? And if it offers little appeal or benefits. So C is a maybe, because a poor investment, that has to do with the money, right? That's what we talked about. They talked about in that counterclaim paragraph, they talked about how they have to weigh whether or not they can afford to. So C is a maybe. D, opportunities for women in college sports have long lagged behind those for men. Again, that's a statement that's helping to prove that claim, that the NCAA should provide more opportunities. So that is why D is wrong. So your correct answer here is C. 8. Which of the following is evidence that defends the author's claim that there is a discrepancy between men and women's sports? So discrepancy is a difference, right? So that there's a discrepancy between men and women's sports. So that there's a difference between men and women's sports. But it's evidence that defends the claim, right? These questions, y'all, have a lot of parts, okay? So our author's claim is that there needs to be more opportunities for women. So which statement here defends that there needs to be more opportunities for women and talks about the differences between men and women's sports? Because it's not just the differences, but it's about how that supports the claim that women need more opportunities. So A, men's sports are known to draw the largest audience. Okay, so that is talking about a difference, but is it helping to support the claim that women need more opportunities? No. B, more than half of the students at NCAA schools are women. Again, it's talking about the discrepancy, right? The difference, right? But is it really defending the author's claim well about the fact that women need more opportunities? Maybe, so I would put B as a maybe. C, college athletes enjoy scholarships and strong academic support. Okay, is this talking about the differences between men and women? No. So that's why C is incorrect. Okay? D, less than half of the scholarship money for athletes goes to women. Okay, so this talks about the difference. It doesn't directly talk about the difference, but if less than half goes to women, then the rest of it goes to men. So it's talking about the discrepancy. And is it defending the author's claim that the NCAA needs to give more opportunities for women? Yes, right? Because again, if it gives more opportunities, that's what it's asking. It's asking for more sports opportunities, for more scholarships, so that that can even out a little bit, since there are more women in college sports. You want to lower that difference between the men and women sports. So your correct answer here is D. 9. What can the reader infer from paragraph 5? So I'm going to come back up here to paragraph 5, and I'm going to reread it. Women's wrestling has also had a difficult time taking off. Few people attend matches because it is not as popular as other women's sports, such as volleyball. As a result, opportunities for female wrestlers are quite limited. Nonetheless, many colleges do have women's wrestling teams. The National Collegiate Wrestling Association even holds a national championship for them. However, women's wrestling is still struggling to achieve emerging sports status in the NCAA. Even if it achieves that status, there's a long and difficult road ahead before becoming a championship sport. Men's wrestling, by contrast, is already a championship sport. That means male wrestlers have opportunities for scholarships and athletic recruitment that their female counterparts do not. So what can the reader infer from that paragraph? If men's wrestling gained more popularity, women's wrestling likely would as well. Okay, well, men's wrestling is already popular, right? So and women's wrestling has not increased in popularity because of men's wrestling. So we know that A is wrong. B, if there were more scholarships for female athletes, there would be fewer for male athletes. Now, is that necessarily true? No, just because there are more for females doesn't mean that they're going to be taking some away from males. There might be more funding. Okay, so B is incorrect. C, if women's wrestling became an NCAA sport, women would have more scholarship opportunities. So this connects directly to our claim, right? So if it becomes an NCAA sport, there are more opportunities for scholarships, there are more opportunities for recruitment, right? And that is what that paragraph says, right? Male wrestling, that's an NCAA sport, has opportunities for scholarships and recruitment. So that's something that we can infer from that paragraph. So C is a maybe. D, if men and women competed on the same teams, there would be more opportunities for all athletes. Now, while that might be true, you can't have men and women compete on the same teams because of the discrepancies in physical traits. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't be condoned by any of the associations that we're discussing. So D is wrong. So C is the correct answer here. Number 10. The intended audience for this passage is most likely. Now, this is a difficult question here. When I was reading this question, I was trying to connect to the claim, and I got it wrong when I was doing this question. So, women athletes who are hoping to see some... So what I want y'all to think about when we're looking at this question is I want you to think about who can actually fix the problem, who can affect the change in this... in this situation, who can cause the change. Okay, so A says women athletes who are hoping to see some changes in policies. Okay, so those female athletes, can they actually affect change in their own sports? Maybe, but it's a small amount of people there who are only. If we're only is our author only looking at addressing female athletes? Probably not. B, professional athletes who are determined to make a change in their field. Again, that's a small audience, right? Our author is probably not addressing a small audience here. Okay? C, sports fans who might not be aware of issues with women's athletics. So this connects to problems, right? So C right here is a maybe. Sports fans who might not be aware of the issues with women's athletes. And then D, college athletic department employees who make recruitment decisions. D is the one that I went with because I connected right here to the claim that the NCAA should recognize more sports. But the correct answer here is C, because the people that actually make the change are sports fans. If more sports fans go to these sporting events like equestrian and female wrestling, if more fans go, then they'll make more money, then the NCAA will recognize those sports. Because, y'all, it's about that money. Can they afford to support those sports? And they can if their fan bases increase, if they make more money like men's football and men's basketball do, right? So that's why C is correct. 11. The author's purpose in writing the text is to. Okay, so we have to be careful here because we do know that our text structure here is problem and solution, right? Because in the first paragraph it says there is one significant problem, right? So that's what we need to make sure we connect to here. So the author's purpose in writing this text is to press for a correction of a problem, right? So that's a maybe because we know that the text structure is problem solution. B, explore possible answers to a question. She doesn't really ask a question, right? Her claim is calling for the NCAA to recognize more sports, so that's why B is incorrect. C, describe the historic context for an event. Okay, there is no event they're talking about here, so that's wrong. D, suggest that a widely held belief is untrue. And again, she's not talking about a widely held belief, okay? So D is wrong. So your correct answer here is A. 12. Why does the author discuss counterclaims in paragraph 6? Okay, so paragraph 6 here we looked at before, right? So some of those counterclaim arguments are that the college programs don't have enough money to afford to support all of those things. So that's that number one right there. That's the money, being able to afford is that number one counterclaim right there. So let's see what our answer choice is in. A, to show the absurdity of an idea. Okay, absurdity is like, it's foolish. So it's not really showing the foolishness because, I mean, that's a pretty good counterclaim, right? That they can't afford to support all those sports. Okay, so A is wrong. B, refute the opinion of an expert. Now, does it reference an expert in here anywhere? Does it talk about a specific expert who we're getting this information from? No. So that's why B is wrong. C, to acknowledge obstacles to achieving a goal. Okay, so the goal here, right, the solution to this problem is to have the NCAA recognize more women's sports, more opportunities, so they have more opportunities, more recruitment, more scholarships, right? But one of the obstacles, one of the things standing in their way is the fact that the NCAA can't afford to support all those sports. So C is a maybe. D, to explain the conditions that make change impossible. Now, does it make it impossible? Can the NCAA get a larger budget? Can more fan bases create more money, more opportunities? Yes. So is it impossible? No. Right? So that's why D is wrong. Okay? So that means C is the correct answer because it is addressing the fact that there are obstacles, but it's not impossible to achieve that goal. 13. Read the following sentences from paragraph 5. Women's wrestling has also had a difficult time taking off. Few people attend matches because it's not as popular as other women's sports, such as volleyball. What logical fallacy does the author use in these sentences? Now, this is a difficult question. So remember, logical fallacy is an error in reasoning. Okay? An error. So if women's wrestling has a hard time taking off, few people attend matches because it's not as popular. If few people attend, is it not popular? Yes. So is our author being redundant here? Yes. Not that many people attend, which means it's not popular. Is she actually proving why it's not popular? No. Right? So that's an example here of circular reasoning, where she's using her original statement that few people attend to prove that few people attend. She's talking in circles there. Few people attend matches because it's not popular. Well, it's not popular because few people attend. Y'all, those two things mean the same thing, which is circular reasoning, which is why A is the correct answer. Now, C was kind of threw you in there as like a trick because of the popularity thing. Well, bandwagon means that people follow what's popular, right? So that's not necessarily, people aren't jumping on the bandwagon to not attend a sport. Okay, so 14, the author includes the statistics in paragraph 2 most likely to. So remember, statistics are numbers. So let's go back and look at paragraph 2. So she talks about how more than half of the students in NCAA schools are women, yet they only receive 44% of the opportunities for athletic participation. They have the highest they only receive 42% of scholarship dollars and 28% of the total athletic budget, and the programs only spend 31% of their recruiting budgets on female athletes. So why does our author include all of those statistics there? Let's see. So A says, enhance the credibility of the author's claim. Okay, so remember, our author's claim is that NCAA needs to create more opportunities for women, right? So credibility means the trustworthiness of a particular author or a particular claim. So does it help us agree with the claim that when we see the fact that more than half of the students are females, but only 44% of the opportunities, right, are for females? Okay, and then only 42% of the scholarship dollars go to females, and only 28% of the budget goes to females. That means the other, 82, go to men. That's a huge percentage. That's really not fair, right? So we need to create more opportunities for those female athletes. So A is a maybe. B, highlight how many scholarships are awarded to female athletes. Now, is it talking about the scholarships? Yes. But is that the reason she includes the statistics? No, she uses it to help support her claim that that it's not fair and we need to create more opportunities. So that's why B is wrong. C, emphasize how male and female athletes are treated fairly. Now, is that fair that there's such a huge discrepancy? No. So that's why C is wrong. D, explain the amount of money awarded in scholarships to male and female athletes. Again, that is what she is doing, right? She is explaining it, but is that why she included it? No, she included it to support her claim. So your correct answer there is A. 15, how does the author's use of compare and contrast text structure in paragraph 5 contribute to the author's purpose? So the rest of the passage, remember, is mostly problem solution. The overall text structure is problem solution, which we addressed in paragraph 1. But if we look at paragraph 5, we see that she's comparing men's and women's wrestling a little bit. And she's looking at women's wrestling, and she's looking at the difference, the volleyball, and she's comparing some of those different sports and the different opportunities that those women and men have. So let's see, but why does she do that? Okay. A, to highlight why wrestling is limited for females compared to other sports. Okay, that's not really what she's saying here, right? So in that paragraph, she talks about let's reread it. Women's wrestling has also had a difficult time taking off. Few people attend matches because it is not as popular as other women's sports, such as volleyball. As a result, opportunities for female wrestlers are quite limited. Nonetheless, many colleges do have women's wrestling teams. The National Collegiate Wrestling Association even holds a national championship for them. However, women's wrestling is still struggling to achieve emerging sports status in the NCAA. Even if it achieves that status, there is a long and difficult road ahead before becoming a championship sport. Men's wrestling, by contrast, already is a championship sport. That means male wrestlers have opportunities for scholarships and athletic recruitment that their female counterparts do not. So she isn't really comparing women's wrestling to volleyball here. She's more looking at the differences between women's wrestling and men's wrestling. So that's why A is incorrect, because it's not talking about other sports. It's just looking at the two types of wrestling. B, to emphasize the reasons why there are limited opportunities for female sports compared to male sports. So again, that's what she's looking at. So women's wrestling doesn't have as many opportunities as the male's wrestling has, right? So there's B as a maybe. C, to explain why female wrestling will never compare to female participation in volleyball. Again, she's not really talking about volleyball. She mentions it like halfway once, but that's not the purpose of the paragraph. So C is wrong. D, to contrast why men's sports are better and deserve more scholarships than women's sports. Does this connect at all to our claim? No, our claim is that women deserve more opportunities. So this is going against our claim. So why would our author want to go against her own claim? She wouldn't. So D is wrong. So that means the correct answer here is B. Okay, so we've gone over the whole test. If you have any questions about a specific question, y'all, feel free to send me a Schoology message, okay? This is to help you better understand the passages, help you better understand the questions and the way those CUA questions are structured, and really to help you out with figuring out why the right answers are the right answers and why the wrong answers are the wrong answers. All right, y'all, if you have any questions about this, feel free to send me a Schoology message. Bye.